So Grant, the reason I'm really talking to you today is that a lot of marketers are really struggling in terms of how to connect with this new emerging market.
So for me, it's always been slightly strange, the whole emerging market thing, because you do feel like you have to talk to that group of people slightly differently. But the truth of it all is that everyone kind of watches the same stuff. Like it's funny when people say the emerging market, you think just people who watch Generations. But actually, we all watch the same stuff, and all it is it always just comes down to basic storytelling, and just creating, I want to say, characters that people can relate to, or the people that people feel like they've met before. So the Jeff and Voyo campaign, like you say, is one of those things where you know a guy, you think you know what a BE guy kind of sounds like, and what do you think happens at his office? So he must have some other lackey there that kind of has to like tend to everything that he says and kind of run his life essentially. But he'll never be able to admit the fact that that this guy's actually running his life, and he's always gonna come across as smarter. But back to your question, it's like, for me, I just feel like you just always need to try and be truthful, and just stay true to kind of the things that you see around you all the time.
So Grant, what I noticed, because I do a lot of channel surfing on radio, it's my business to do that,
Yeah.
is that very often when you listen to different radio stations, there's actually a different language being spoken.
Yeah.
In other words, the language you hear on 5, for instance, versus YFM, etc., etc. It's almost like we have different communities that actually talk differently, and obviously there's slang, etc., etc. Can you just elaborate a little bit about how you bring that stuff in?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's all about really knowing who your target market really is. So who you're speaking to specifically. It's things like the slang that like your 5FM market, even the 702 market has its own version of John Robbie slang, and that you just always need to know that if you're targeting a certain group of people, the language, what language it is that you use. And actually, strangely enough, if you actually listen to the stuff, the lines are actually not that solid between the ways that the people speak, because once again, I feel like because there's almost like a homogenized way of consuming stuff. So people essentially consume the same stuff. It's just like in kind of the really niche pockets of our existence that we go. I'll associate certain things with things that I do in the township, or things that I do. Most of us hang out and come clubbing out here. So essentially, we all essentially speak the same language. It just has little tweaks here and there, and you wanna be able to tap into those little tweaks in order to make your stuff more authentic.
If you're talking to marketers today, I mean, honestly, from your heart, what do you think the relevance of radio today in 2015 is?
It's huge. I think radio is one of those things where, most of us, if not all of us, experience at least once, if not twice a day, in our commute. I mean, we all have like iPods and listen to CDs and things in the car, but ultimately, you almost always default to listening to a radio station, because you want to find stuff out. You want to know exactly what's going on around you. And radio, for that reason, will not, I don't think, is going anywhere for a very long time. In fact, it's a really huge opportunity, because it's also how people discover new music. You find out what the new tracks are out there because you listen to the radio. And I think that, I don't think that culture, especially in South Africa, is going anywhere. And that's why it's really important for radio to be in your marketing mix. In fact, I think that a lot of the time we try to think of it in the urban areas. We use the urban areas as a reference, but actually, if you think about how popular radio still is in like the rural areas, or like just like outlying areas from outside urban areas, I don't think it's going anywhere for a very long time.
You've worked with a lot of clients now. I mean, you're well established in your career, etc., etc. Yeah. So, if you had a message to marketers, if you had a message for marketers in terms of the brief that they give you for radio campaigns, what's the kind of brief that you're looking to from your marketers?
So, I mean, I also know the realities of what we do and how it works. But like, ideally, in the utopia of making radio ads, it's always been strange for me that we get a brief that already has, for example, the duration of the ad in it. 30 seconds works for some things, and it works for most things actually. But some things just need to be expressed just slightly more in order for the concept to land a bit more, right? And I would, like I said, ideally like to appear or get to a point where where after a radio spot's been produced, we look at what, has been presented. We look at what is best for the radio spot, what would make it work at its optimum, and how people are going to receive it, right? And then establish how long we think the spots should be. And I'm sure a lot of clients, maybe others that I've not worked with, do that, and that's fine, that's excellent. And you can almost always tell the difference with that stuff when the radio spots have been given time and all that, and have been pre-produced as well. So just like how we pre-prod television, we should spend a bit more time pre-prodding radio as well. Just to make sure that we, one, you always end up with the voice that you think speaks the language of your product and the language of your consumer. You end up with having produced the thing in such a way, and I know that nobody has the time. No one has the time. But I think we have to find it somewhere in order to make good radio ads. Because the other thing is that you have heard bad radio ads. And I think that's the difference between bad radio ads and the ones that stand out and the ones that make you stand up and listen.